Introductions. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Daniela DeMambro. I'm an IELTS teacher trainer, and I'll be leading today's session on IELTS Writing Task 2, looking at problems and solutions essays. But as you know, I'm not alone. I'm surrounded by my wonderful supportive team. We've got Leila Terani in London, Mariana Petrovic in Zagreb, Croatia, Sarah Philpott in Paris, France, and Aidan Thorne is joining us from Wales. So a quick hello to them in the chat, and we'll get started with our first question for you. So this poll question, I'd like you, if you can, to answer on the poll or in the chat. Have you taken the test already? What score do you need? And when are you planning on taking the IELTS test? Hi, Josephine in Ghana, Rena from Ukraine. Great to have you back with us today. So if you can, use the poll question for your answer. If not, you can just write your answer in the chat. So those questions again, have you taken the test already? What score do you need? And when are you planning on sitting the test? So Dan, you're saying you're sitting it next month. Okay. Oh, a lot of you are saying next month. All right, well, let's have a look at the results. Let's see how that compares to everybody else. Thanks, Denise. So, as expected, the majority of you are preparing to sit it for the first time, but a few of you, you've already sat it. Perhaps you didn't get the score that you needed, as Samson is saying, you didn't get the score that you wanted in writing. And those scores, well, we see a bit of a cluster around about above a band 6. So the majority of you looking for above a band 6, above a band 7. Remember that this webinar is for everyone, whether you're aiming for a band 4 or a band 9, you will get something from these webinars. And yes, so a lot of you told me in the chat that you were sitting your test in the next month or so. That seems to reflect what's coming through the poll, with the majority up to 3 months. Great. Right, the next poll question, again, trying to answer in the poll or in the chat. Have you attended a British Council IELTS webinar before? How did you hear about the webinar? And which of the 4 skills do you find the most difficult? Oh, Andrew's saying listening, reading. Ananda says, okay, interesting. Denise says the same. A lot of people are saying reading in the chat, but I'm seeing slightly different results when it comes to the poll. Interesting. Wanda saying writing. Daniela, beautiful name, also saying writing. Right, let's have a look at the results of the poll, see how that compares. Okay, good. So we've got a lovely bunch of returning people today. Welcome back. Great to see you back here with us. Those of you who've attended before, we do recognise your names. It's lovely to see you coming back every week, but also a big warm welcome if you're joining us for the first time. And good to see you're using the British Council website. I'm going to give you a bit more information about that website at the very end of today. So do stay until the very end, where I'll tell you about the resources that are available for you. And yes, as expected, as we've seen before, it seems to be that writing is one of the most difficult sections for a lot of people. Hence why we're here. This is why we're doing this webinar today, to help you with writing. Okay, so let's look at what we can expect over the next hour. The webinar lasts for 60 minutes, and that includes time for your questions at the end. As you've been doing, I want you to continue using the chat box. As I've already said, I'll be getting you to do some writing today. So in order for me to see that, it needs to be in the chat, not the Q&A. What do we use the Q&A for? We've got the chat box and Q&A. What is Q&A for? You tell me in the chat. Is for questions, absolutely. That's for you to ask questions, not to write your answers, but to ask questions of the team. So the team that are here today are here to answer those questions. That's what the Q&A is for. Sometimes that gets a bit busy. So do check to see if anybody else has asked your question, like it, and then that helps us prioritize the most popular ones. The webinar is being recorded. Zoom automatically then sends that recording to you. So you should get that within about 3 days. For questions about your test booking, your best bet is to contact your local British Council test centre. And finally, please don't share any phone numbers or personal information, and please be courteous at all times. Otherwise, you might be excluded from the webinar. And what you might notice is from now on, we're going to change the chat settings slightly so that while I can read all of your answers in the chat, the team can read all of your answers in the chat. You might not be able to read each other's. And there's two reasons for that. Number one, we've had some feedback in the past that people find that a bit distracting. But perhaps more importantly, when we tried it in the past, it crashed Zoom. So we really don't want that to happen. That's why you might not be able to see each other's answers, but just know that I can. Okay, let's focus in on our programme. We're going to start by identifying different types of essays and planning your ideas. Then we're going to work together and write the introduction, look at cohesive paragraphs that make up the main body paragraphs, as well as looking at the language involved, the language of cause and effect. We'll finish, of course, by writing the conclusion and think about what we need to do when we're checking our work. And I've been speaking for long enough. So please, can you open the chat box? I'm going to ask you some questions now. And in the chat box, can you tell me what type of task is task 2? What type of writing is it? Fantastic, Emily, Samir, Patri, that's what I'm looking for. It is an essay. Let me ask you, do you have a choice of essay questions in the Ielts test? Can you choose which question to answer? No, that's right. So in Ielts, on your test day, you'll be given one question, and your task is to write an essay in response to that question. Okay, next question. In the chat box, please, how long do you recommend you spend on this task? How many minutes? Okay, a wee bit longer than 15 minutes. Remember, it's 60 minutes for the entire writing test. You have 2 tasks. So we recommend you spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2. Why? Why have we split it up like that? 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 for task 2. There is a reason behind it. Gift says the weighting of the marking. Absolutely. And in why it's worth twice as much as 1. That's correct. So writing task 2 is worth 2/3 of your overall writing band, overall writing score. So it just makes sense that we spend 2/3 of the time on writing task 2. Okay, next question, final question for now. Word count. What can you tell me about the word count for task 2? Very good. 250. Can we write over 250? Is it okay to exceed that number of words? Yes. So that's why we say it's a minimum. And think of it as 250 plus. Well done. You seem to know a lot already. My next question is about how it's marked. How many criteria does the examiner use? How many are there? Absolutely. There are 4. Can you tell me what they are? Do you know any of them? Good, Michael. Michael says task response. Chanda says grammar. You know your stuff, Michael. That's great. Coherence and cohesion. Leah says lexical resource. I think we've covered them all. Well done. So we have these 4 criteria. Task response, about how fully, how accurately you've answered the question. What does coherence and cohesion assess? What do you think? What does that assess? What is the examiner looking for under coherence and cohesion? Chanda says order. Samson says the logical sense of it, the organization of it, Michael says. Absolutely. Lexical resource? Lexical resource, what's that another word for? Can you give me a synonym for lexical resource? Vocabulary, absolutely, Angela. And then grammatical range and accuracy. So we know what accuracy means. That means how correct your grammar is. But how could you explain range? What do we mean by range? What do you think? When we're referring to grammar, how would you explain this? Bernadette says perhaps shifting tenses. Michael says different types. Good. Andrew says different structures. And then why a variety of different structures, a variety of different grammatical structures. Absolutely. This mixture of simple and complex sentences. Fantastic. So you'll see that these 4 criteria describe what's required at each band. So you said earlier on, a lot of you said you were aiming for a band 8 or a band 7. So this is where your homework comes in. Mariana's very kindly posting the link to the band descriptors. And what I'd like you to do is to identify at your band, the band that you're aiming for, what is it that you have to do? What are the bullet points for your band? It's a really useful process to follow. If you can identify what's required for your band, it helps you know what to look for in your writing and what to aim for on your test day. So that's your homework for next week. I want you to look at the writing band descriptors. Remember, these are the exact same ones that the examiner uses on the test day. And I'd like you to get a bit more familiar with them. Understand what's required for your desired band. Okay, next question. We know that we have to write an essay. We've established that. Task 2 is always an essay. But is it always the same type of essay? Lots of people are saying no. Okay. So what can you tell me? What sort of types of essays have you come across? What are they? Samson says opinion. Good. So you might need to write an essay that expresses an opinion. Good. What else? Okay, lots of ideas. Lots of people are saying discussion. Ferial, you said a two-sided argument rather than circumstance, but I understand what you mean. A two-sided argument or a discussion. Absolutely, Rabia. This idea of looking at two sides. And what is the type of essay we're looking at today? Good Manju, of course, problem and solution essays. So it's really important that in your 40 minutes, you spend some time at the start, spend some time looking at your question and identifying this, identifying the type of task it is. Do you want to practice that? Shall we do some practice of that? What do you think? Great. Okay, let's do this one by one. I'm going to be quiet for 10 seconds, take a little sip of water. I want you to tell me in the chat what type of essay question this is. Very good, Lavon. Very good, Anna. Sophia, very good. Diana, Shusha, absolutely. This is an opinion essay. What helped you with that? What helped you identify the type of task it is? What were the key words? Agree, disagree. Very good. So when you're on the test, when you're sitting in the test, underline those words. identifying what the type of essay is, what the type of question is, by looking for keywords like this. Keywords in the instruction that tell you exactly what they're looking for. So here, this is an opinion. It's asking you, to what extent do you agree or disagree with the opinion that's been given? So you're being asked to explicitly give and support, justify your opinion. It's much more about how you feel about the topic and how you can support your position. Okay, let's look at the next one. And again, I want you to tell me what type of essay question this is. Excellent. Everybody's identified this really quickly. So this is problem and solution. Tell me, how did you identify that? What words would you underline in the test? What were the keywords that helped you identify it? Good. Causes of the problem and measures taken to solve them. We're going to come back to this one in a moment. What about this? Very good. Okay, so Abbas is calling this a discussion essay. Angela's calling both views essay. Geraldine, an argument. Tinkley, a two-sided argument. Very good. However you refer to it, as long as you know what it is that you have to do. What were the keywords that helped you identify this? What words would you underline? Good. Discuss both these views. It's there, it's explicitly there in the instruction. Discuss both these views. But also look at the question itself. What are the views? What's the first viewpoint? What's the first opinion that's given? What is the first viewpoint? Anmol says, born with talent. People are born with talents, Bernadette. Meiko says the same. Okay, so that's the first opinion. And what's the second one? The second view. That's a nice way of putting it. Some are saying it can be taught. You can learn these things. Anyone can learn. Very good. So what we're doing now is what I advise you to do on your test day. Underlining the keywords that help you understand the type of essay to write and looking again at the question. Because in this essay, what would happen if we only discussed one of these views? What would happen? Which part of the criteria would be affected by that? Good, Michael. Your task response. You're right, Bernadette. Spot on. You're not doing what it's asking you to do. So it's really important that we slow down at the beginning of our 40 minutes and identify, what do we have to do? Understanding the question. So remember, we looked at this question already. This is the one we're going to work with today. And we identified the keywords, causes of the problem, what can be done to solve this issue. So we know it's a problem and solution essay. But what is the problem? What's the problem we're being asked to solve? In the chat box, please. Oh, okay. Careful. So far, and I've read about 5 different answers that all say obesity. Is that correct? Is that correct? Is that what this essay question is about? Obesity. Obesity in general. Is that what this essay question is asking you to discuss? Obesity in general. It's not. This question specifically tells you to look at what? Childhood obesity. Very good. Childhood obesity. If I had gone ahead and just read this very quickly, found the word obesity and just started writing my essay, which part of the criteria would be affected? Which of the criteria would be affected? Task response. Because what? What have I not done? I've not, I'm good. I've not actually answered the question. This question specifically is about the problems and solutions for childhood obesity. Now, it's so important that you do take the time in your test, even when you're feeling nervous, to read the whole question carefully to be sure of the topic, not just rush into an essay, for example, about obesity. Then you've missed the point of the question. And also, I hope you notice that this is actually clarified for you. How is childhood obesity rephrased in the sentence? Sorry, yeah, in the question. How is childhood obesity rephrased? Children? Yeah, it's good. So in the second line, children now classed as overweight. It's important to read the whole question carefully. Be sure of the type of task. Be sure of the topic. Excellent. So here we've done this together. We've underlined or we've highlighted all of the keywords. Remember, you can do that in the test as well. You can highlight on computer, you can underline on paper to help you identify what you need to do. Let's move on to step two. What do you think step two is? Now we've spent some time understanding the question, what should we do now? Okay, Electra says bullet points. Emily says generating ideas. Michael says brainstorm. Absolutely. Now we need to think of our ideas. We need to think about what we're going to write about. For me, I use a table simply because it works for me. It works for my mind to look at the two areas that we're being asked to think about, causes and solutions. I'm not saying you must use a table. I'm just saying it works for me. If you prefer to do bullet points, a mind map, whatever works, as long as you're not skipping this step. So let's do it together. Let's start with the causes. Give me some ideas in the chat. What are some of the causes of the problem of childhood obesity? Try to give me more than just one word. Remember, the more information you can put in your brainstorming stage, the easier the actual writing is going to be. So let's see, what do we have? A lot of people are saying junk food. Okay, junk food. So where might they eat junk food? Where is this a problem? Where do you think they spend a lot of time and they've got junk food available? Maybe it's school. Okay, good point. So maybe there is too much junk food at school. So the availability of junk food there. Okay. What else? A lot of you said about health, the cost and health. Very good, Ayan. So maybe buying cheaper food, cheaper high fat food. I think those are really good points. Um, the low cost of unhealthy food versus expensive healthy food. But the first thing that most of you said was about a lack of exercise. Give me more about that. Why is there a lack of exercise? Good, Ebos. That's loads of ideas. Great. Let's think about this. Why is there a lack of exercise? Ashish says screen time, too much screen time, watching TV, Shusha says. More time consuming, oh, I've missed it, sorry. I think a lot of us are saying the same thing though. Technology has got in the way of this. Great. So here we have three possible causes of childhood obesity. And now I want to just slow down a little bit because very often it's the easier thing is to come up with the causes, to come up with the problems. And coming up with solutions that are relevant can be quite challenging. So let me show you a possible strategy. If you're sitting in the test and you're struggling to come up with ideas for solutions, ask yourself about people's responsibility. So tell me, what could the individual child do? What could the individual do in this context? What could the child do to solve their own problem? Vyacheslav says eating natural products. Samson, they can do something. Tinkle says more exercise. Alina says ask their parents for help. That's lovely. Rabia says take part in clubs like extracurricular activities at school. So maybe football clubs, that sort of thing. Great. What could parents do? Let's move on. What could parents do? Physical activities with their kids, prepare their lunch. Tia says provide healthier foods. Electra says cook homemade food, watch their diet from Gift. Incorporate a proper meal plan. I'm sorry I've missed your name, but these are fantastic ideas. Let's move on to schools. What do you think schools should do? Have a sports day. I love that idea. Ban junk food. Faith, we're going to come back to that. Have health programs. Educate. I think absolutely. Of course, it's a place of education. What about actual, maybe fast food companies themselves? Maybe companies that are selling this junk food. What could they do? What could they take responsibility for? Have less advertisement, Levon says. Use healthier ingredients. Shusha says to improve their menu. Asma says reduce fat. Yeah, I think even in recent years we've seen a bit of a trend where some of the big fast food chains are providing healthier options. Yasin says that add more healthy variety, provide warnings. Great ideas. Yeah, we've seen changes here in that respect. And finally, let's think beyond that. Let's think about local and national government. What could they do? Absolutely, Akalanka. What could they do? Gerardo says taxes. Could you give me some more information about that? Michael, you've said taxes. Give me some information. Wanda says tax sugar. Gift says the same. Thinking about what we're taxing, what the government can do. So let's take all of those ideas and try to apply them to our solutions. So we said one of the problems was the availability of junk food at school. And you said, well, schools can ban junk food. Schools can control that. We said that one of the causes was the low cost of unhealthy food versus the expensive healthy food. Yes, Federico? And if you remember what you said about this, do you remember what you said you would introduce? A sugar tax. And then this last one, less exercise, more time in front of screens. What did we say about that? We said something about parents being responsible. So what could parents do here? Could control it, restrict their screen time, regulate it in the household. Absolutely. So this technique of asking yourself these questions about what the individual, what the person can do alone, what families and schools can do, what communities and societies can do, really helps you generate specific solutions to the problems or the causes that you've outlined. Well done. So we're ready to write. Before we start to write, I want us to think about the model, what we would expect our essay to look like. What would you begin with? How would you start your essay? An introduction. Good, Emily. And what would you include in your introduction? What would you include? Paraphrasing, the main ideas. Fantastic. Good. So rephrasing the main problem, the main ideas of your essay, and the solutions that you're going to discuss. Great. What would be your first main body paragraph? Your first main body paragraph after your introduction, the problem or the causes and their effects, the impact of those. Great. What would follow this? What's the next paragraph? The solutions. Yep. All makes sense. And rather than just providing a list of solutions, we're going to develop our arguments by providing support, outlining the effects of each of these. So how do we finish our essay? What do we include? Absolutely. And what would you include in your conclusion, Faith? Anne Moll, Ayan. Yeah, Leah, a summary. Good, Michael. Good. So you refer back to the main problem, you summarize your solutions. So is this a structure you feel comfortable with? Do you feel comfortable using this type of essay structure? Yeah? Okay. I expect that you do. So today, I want to try something different. I want to try a slightly different structure. We're going to keep the introduction and conclusion the same, but how might we change the main body paragraph? Before, we had one paragraph about causes, one paragraph about solutions. What could we do differently? Good, Julia. Good, Andrew. The cause and its solution. A cause and its solution. So we're dealing specifically in each paragraph with one or two causes and their possible solutions. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to try this one today because I know how comfortable you are with the other one we looked at. So why not try something new? Okay, so let's start with our introduction. Would you like to read my introduction? Okie doke. So for this, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of quiet time, and I want you to read my introduction to try to identify these 3 points. Very good. Andrew is already identifying some of the points that we said we would include in our introduction. So let me use the same paragraph, but using color coding so that I can ask you some questions. On the screen, you'll see the next poll question. And this is where I want us to break down what each sentence is doing. So in the next poll question, I want you to tell me, what is the first blue sentence doing, the light blue sentence? If you don't see the poll, you can use the chat box to answer my questions. The options, is it outlining the solutions? Is it rephrasing the main problem? Or is it summarising the main ideas of the essay? Thank you, Gabriele. Tell me about the red sentence. Tell me about this last dark blue sentence. Remember the options, outlining the solutions, rephrasing the main problem, or summarising the main ideas of the essay. What do you think? I'm going to give you some quiet time. Very good, Gabriele. Very good, Esther. Just to help me understand, please do refer to the colour in your answer. I just want to check your answers, so make sure you're a bit clearer, if you don't mind. I'll give you another 10 seconds to get your answers in either the chat box or in the poll. Thank you, Remy. Thanks, Mercedes. Good, Nadia. Let's have a look at these answers together. Let's try and break down how we've put together this introduction today. So the first sentence, this first light blue sentence, you absolutely identified straight away. This is rephrasing the main problem. Why is it important that we rephrase? Tell me in the chat box, why do you think it's important that I'm not just copying words from the question? Lexical resource, to clarify what was asked. Alfonso says, to demonstrate that you understand the task. Perfect. We want to show the examiner, as Shusha says, that we understand, we know what you're asking us to do, and we're doing it. Okay, now the next sentence, this sentence in red, the purpose of this is to summarize the main ideas of your essay, letting the examiner, letting the reader know what they're about to read, what you're going to include in your essay. And finally, this dark blue sentence is outlining the solutions. So what do you think? By the end of my introduction, what do you think the examiner will think? Do you think they'll know that I've understood the question? I think so. So I've demonstrated that I've understood the question and I've demonstrated that I'm ready to write about it. I'm going to write about the problems and I'm going to offer solutions as well. Great stuff. So we had our introduction and then we had our main body paragraph. I'm going to give you some time to look at this main body paragraph. And I want you to tell me, do you think it's my first or second main body paragraph? Tell me in the chat. Okay, almost everybody, apart from the people who answered too quickly and didn't have time to read, have identified that this is the second main body paragraph. How do you know? What were the keywords? Another, exactly. So what is this paragraph about? Can you identify what cause does this paragraph discuss? Very good. So it describes, it goes into the detail of the lack of exercise. Remember, that was one of the ideas that we'd taken from our table. And does it provide a solution? Okay, where does the solution begin? What keyword helped you identify the solution? Another cohesive device, however. So you can see this is how we structure this sort of paragraph, where we provide the cause, we discuss the cause and the impact of that, and then, as we set out before, the solution. And rather than just providing a list of possible solutions, we actually describe the impact of the solution that we're suggesting. So here we have our structure. We have half of the paragraph is about the cause or the problem, and the other half is providing the solution. And you were able to identify what it was about because of this first sentence. What do we call that first sentence? A sentence that tells the reader exactly what the paragraph is about. Good, Bernadette. Great, Bisma. It's a topic sentence. It lays out for the reader what the topic is. So we've got the topic sentence, and then we have support for that. We provide support by explaining the effect of this lack of exercise. And again, we've got the same in the second half of the paragraph, the blue half of the paragraph, the solution. We provide the solution. What is the solution? What solution have I provided here? What solution, Daniel? The actions by parents, limiting screen time. And then I describe the effect of that. More engagement in sports, more engagement in exercises. Because cause and effect are a key aspect of problem and solution essays. So we're going to step away from the essay for a minute because I want us to think about the language that we need to write about cause and effect. So let's do this together. Tell me, I've got two phrases on the slide. Which one is the cause and which one is the effect? Where is the cause? Where is the cause? What is the cause? Is the lack of exercise. Good. So if this is the cause, what is the effect? The weight gain. Okay. But I need language to connect these two ideas. So what phrases could I use to connect the ideas? Give me some examples in the chat. What phrases could I use? Okay, very good. Faryal says results in. Very good. Now I'm just using the present simple. You don't need to change the tense. Michael, I think said causes. Absolutely. Charmaine, you've got a different one, but you've also got gives rise to. What else do we have to connect these two ideas? Contributes to. Thank you so much. Deborah, leads to or can lead to. Very nice. Gabriele, not brings to. Be careful with your preposition. Brings about. Anything else? Okay. Look, Jamil, look, we have used results, but look at the preposition that we're using. Brings about, very good. One more to give you accounts for. A lack of exercise accounts for weight gain. Okay, are you ready for some writing? Do you want to do some writing? Okay, so I want you to give me another sentence. The effect is the same. Keep the effect as weight gain, but this time I want you to change the cause. It needs to be a full sentence. So change the cause, use one of these verb phrases, and give me the effect being weight gain. I've got the chat box open. Frank, I need full sentences, please. Tias, full sentences. Okay, good. Aparupa says, overeating results in weight gain. Mary, junk food leads to weight gain. Very nice. Pay attention to your capital letters. You are writing sentences, so do remember your capital letters. Very nice. Sedentary lifestyle. Alina, you need to add an article to that. So a sedentary lifestyle leads to weight gain. That's fine. A lack of physical activity. Oh, Keiko, that's really nice. Cheap, unhealthy food accounts for weight gain. Very nice. Lovely sentences coming in. But remember, we looked at the marking criteria and we identified that we need to show range. We can't just use the same structures again and again and again. So how could we change this? How could we change this around to show range? Well, one way of doing that is to begin with what? What have I started this with? What's different about this example? Very good, Chantel. My question wasn't very clear, so well done, yes. So I've changed the order and we've started with the effect. The effect of weight gain is at the start of the sentence. So what does that mean for our grammar? What do we need to do with our grammar? Give me full sentences. You're right, Emily. We need to use the passive. So we're changing our language a little bit and we're using the passive. I want you to choose a different phrase from before and give me a different sentence, please. Let's change our sentences. Let's try to experiment a little bit. Zebo, weight gain can be caused by a sedentary lifestyle. That's a perfect sentence. I want to keep that sentence. Momita, overweight on its own, we can't use that as the subject. So we could say the problem of being overweight or obesity can be caused by eating sweets, maybe too many sweets and fatty food. Weight gain is normally caused by eating too much junk food. These sentences are fantastic. What I want you to do is take a note of your sentence, the sentence you've written, because after today's webinar, I want you to write the essay. I want you to actually take these sentences and write a full paragraph. Very nice, lovely sentences coming through. It's clear to me you know how to do this, but would you like to do a little bit more practice? One more practice task. Okay, this time I'm not going to help you at all. I'm going to leave it all up to you. I want you to complete sentences 1, 2, and 3 in the chat box. You have about 40 seconds starting now. Rabia, look at the options that you've got at the top. Fifteen seconds. Come on, A-Boss, this is writing practice. Write your answers, please. Very good. Very nice. So there's a reason I'm asking you to write the full answer. There is a reason. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But for now, I want you to check your answer. Tell me, how many did you get right out of 3? Did anybody get 3 out of 3? Well done, Michael. Well done, Samson, Samir, Diana. Fantastic. Well done, Mohammed. 3 out of 3, Wanda. Pleased to see it. Well done, Rena. Diana. I love that smiling face. Gabriele, you've made a really good point. What was the key? What was the key? What words in the text helped you to identify the phrases to use? The blue words. What do we call those words? Prepositions. And I did that on purpose because it's really important that when you're using these phrases, you pay attention to every part of the phrase. You pay attention to the verb that you're using, any prepositions, any words around the verb. So when you're using these phrases, when you're using the language of cause and effect today, because I know you're going to finish and I know you're going to write your paragraph, I believe that you will, please pay attention to the words around it, the little words that are very easy to forget, words like prepositions. Okay, let's go back to our essay. So we've done our introduction, we've done our main body paragraphs. What's left? Absolutely, our conclusion. Do you remember what 2 things did we say we would include in our conclusion? A summary? And anything else? Do we need to refer to anything? Good, Samir. Let me show you the same conclusion, but this time in colour. Tell me, what is the purpose of the red sentence? What's the red sentence doing? It's rephrasing. Good. It's referring back to what? Anna says it's rephrasing the main problem, referring back to the question. Very good. So again, we're showing the examiner, remember that question you asked me? Well, I've answered it. So we refer back to the main problem in the question. What do you think the part in this dark blue colour is doing? Absolutely, Alfonso. It's summarising. Federico says it recalls. It's summarising the solutions that we've mentioned in the essay already. Am I introducing any new solutions? Am I introducing any new problems, any new arguments here? No. Good. So actually, your conclusion shouldn't take you long to write. It's only really a few sentences where you're just bringing everything to a close by referring back to what you've already said. Okay. And that's us at the end of the essay. Would you like to see the finished essay? Would you like to see the whole thing? Okay. Well, we have to strike up a deal here. If I'm going to show you my essay, I expect some feedback. So my first question is about the color coding. Which color do you think refers to problems? Which color? Okay, so the red color, which takes up mostly the first half of the paragraphs, refers to problems. And which color refers to solutions? The dark blue. Good. So if we take a step back then and think of the question, a problem and solution question, and if we think about task response, have I answered the question? Yes. So throughout my essay, I've been careful to answer the question, providing causes and solutions. Let me ask you about coherence and cohesion, about the organisation of the essay. Do you think it's organised in a logical way? You don't even need to read it just by looking at the colours. Good. So the examiner's looking for that, is looking for a sense of organisation throughout your essay. Now, when you get the link to the recording, which you'll get that soon, I do want you to pause here, use the band descriptors, look for examples of lexical resource, grammatical range. Look for examples of synonyms and more complex structures. But we're not finished, because our last step before we finish is to check. Check that you have fully addressed the question. Check for any mistakes with grammar or vocabulary, and check that your paragraphing is clear. Let's be honest, on the test day, you might not have time to do all of this, but you do have time now. So as you're preparing for your test, whether you've got it in 2 weeks, 2 days, 2 months, whenever you've got your test, if you're doing any writing practice, when you finish writing, I want you to check your writing for all of these things. This is a really good habit to develop because it also tells you what mistakes you tend to make, how many grammar mistakes, how many vocab mistakes, so that you know what to look out for when you're sitting your test. Okay, we've got just over 5 minutes before we finish. Please do stay on to the end because we've got some important information to give you, including resources and answers to your questions. But just to summarise what we've done today, we analysed the question and then we thought of causes and solutions. We brainstormed about 3 of those. We wrote our introduction, paying close attention to the structure and rephrasing the question. When it came to our main body paragraphs, well, we used clear cohesive devices to start and connect our ideas, and we used the language of cause and effect. Don't go yet, Ashika. We refer back to the main problem in the question and we summarised our solutions. And then finally, we want to develop this habit of checking our work. So I'm going to go to questions in just a moment, but for now, we want to just draw your attention to a little bit of news from the British Council. And for this, I'm going to put on my video